All right. Okay. You just tell me when we're live. Okay. Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started with this Maryland General Assembly Joint Committee on the Management of Public Funds. I am the Senate Chair, Senator Malcolm Augustine. We are pleased today to have our annual presentations by the Treasurer, the Comptroller's Office, and of course also the audit from with regard to the local government and audit reports. And so we're definitely excited that you all are here. And of course we got our co-chair from the House in his last somewhat official duty, right?
Last official time that I'll be chairing as the House representative. So this is last and first for me because I'm in front of my good friend and colleague for the first time, the new Treasurer Derek Davis. So good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Outstanding. So I think we can go ahead and get started. We can get right into it. Right. And we'll turn it over to the Treasurer Davis.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, obviously. If I can, I'd like to introduce members of my team that are with me. To my immediate right is Mr. John Martin. He is the Chief Deputy Treasurer. And to his right is Ms. Laura Addis. Maybe you remember her from Economic Matters. And she is the Deputy Treasurer for Public Policy. And if you all don't like any of this stuff, Laura wrote it. So, you know. Let me start, if I can, I think you have a handout from us. Am I accurate? Oh, yes. Okay. Since taking office last December, I've tried to focus on improving agency operations based upon a three-pronged approach. Investing in people, modernizing our process for doing business, and raising the profile and presence of the State Treasurer's Office. The first prong is people. Due to a combination of factors, in January, the State Treasurer's Office workforce reflected a 35% vacancy rate. With the help of my team, I was able to implement a telework policy and prioritize employee compensation, two steps that proved critical in helping to close the shortfall. As of last month, our staff transitioned to 2 days of telework per week. We believe that operating in a hybrid environment will help to attract and retain employees without impacting the quality of service that we provide. We have, strict protocols with that, and we've made it clear that as long as the office is being productive through that policy, we can continue. But if there's any issues with productivity, then we reserve the right to rescind that policy either office-wide or, in specific cases. In terms of compensation, I continue to work with the General Assembly and the Department of Budget and Management to advocate for salary increases for office employees. While competitiveness is a challenge for all state agencies, we feel the pressure more acutely in the State Treasurer's Office because of the specialized and financial nature of our insurance, debt management, and banking functions. The State Treasurer's Office competes directly with the private sector, unlike many other state agencies. Today, I'm proud to report that our efforts have reduced the vacancy rate by 50%. With the benefit of perspective, I can attest that operations run much more smoothly with 15% of positions vacant instead of 35%. Now, our second prong is process. For several years, the State Treasurer's Office has been apprising you of major information technology upgrades. The changes are needed because the office mainframe technology was going to become unsupported and obsolete this year. This year. The multi-year effort has culminated in the launch of our new insurance division system and the preparation to launch the new Treasury Management Division system. When all of the upgrades are complete, there will be 4 new systems, or as the report calls them, modules, touching many corners of the office's broad reach, accounting, insurance, citizen and agency, and treasury management. These IT improvements will allow us to better serve the public and the agency and institutions with which we interact. And our third prong is presence. In a lot of ways, the state treasurer's office staff are among the unsung heroes of state government. Our dedicated team of 50 to 60 professionals help us to retain our coveted AAA bond rating, manage the state's cash investments totaling over $19 billion, and handles the disbursement of hundreds of billions of dollars each fiscal quarter, oversee billion-dollar general obligation bond sales, and closes more than 4,000 insurance cases annually. These are just some of the things the office staff do to support my work, yet most citizens have never heard of the office. In fact, if I can, most of the people I encounter, they actually think I'm the Appropriations Committee or the Budget and Taxations Committee. You know, as soon as they find out that I'm the treasurer, they immediately start asking for grants and, you know, things that you wonderful people get to do. So what we've tried to do, and one of my goals is to bring more awareness to exactly what the office does and things of that nature. We've gone, I'm from the old school, so I'm not much for social media, but I have a group of younger folks who are just brilliant at that. And so we've done the social media to amplify our message and give me a platform to discuss things like financial literacy, spotlight the various divisions within my agency, and to discuss other important issues as well. It is my hope that by being more visible and transparent about the role of the state treasurer, both you and your constituents will better understand the services that are available and how the office can be of service. So I want to thank you again for your time and attention. The report that we provided goes into a lot more detail about the progress that we have made in my first year. And so I would encourage you to review it at your convenience. And if you have any questions about any items that you see, please reach out to me or members of my team, and we would be happy to answer and address any of those questions that you may have. So that's, you know, that's a report on what we've done in my first 10 months. And if you all, I don't know if it's appropriate, but if you all have any questions for me or us, we'd be happy to attempt to address them now or to get back with you if we don't have the answers.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. Members of the committee, do we have questions? Senator Beidle?
There we go. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you. I have one question, Mr. Treasurer. You talked about financial literacy. What's your involvement in financial literacy? Are you teaching it? Are you teaching the boards?
What it's right now, it's more conceptual. Correct me if I misspeak, Laura. I don't want to call it so much of a legislative agenda because that implies legislation or bills or anything like that, but just stressing the importance of financial literacy as I go and speak, you know, to various community groups and things like that to you know, to really push Maryland 529. I know that may not be, you know, really popular at this moment, but just, you know, when we're talking about college, we talk a lot about the debt that our young people encounter as they try to go to school, and while there may be some loan forgiveness programs now, that may not always be the case. So just encouraging, you know, savings and you know, putting things away, getting away from the credit cards, you know, all the things like that, things of that nature, trying to bring it to the forefront. We may bring some initiatives like baby bonds forward. I know that's something that we've been discussing as well, but it's not legislation, nothing that you all have to deal with, but more just bringing awareness to, you know, different things that are available to, you know, to be smarter in some cases with how we spend and why we spend, things like that.
Thank you. I would really like to see a stronger financial literacy program in high schools, maybe particularly senior year. As you talked about the credit cards and the debt, I just think there needs to be a better understanding of that, as well as if you begin bouncing checks or, ruin your credit, it takes a long time to overcome that. So maybe that's something we can work on.
I would love to.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. And in some of the things that were written, it's just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the IT upgrades that have been made with the department, and feel free to elaborate. So anything related to cybersecurity, we've been talking about and hearing from different departments on their upgrades for years, and just wanted to see if your staff would provide us some information.
John, take that, please. You've been more involved with that.
No worries.
John Martin, the Chief Deputy Treasurer. So we've been moving away from kind of a mainframe.
I'm sorry. Would you move the mic closer, please?
Sure.
Thank you. You can
Is that
pull
any
it.
better?
You can pull it. Pull it.
Oh, there it goes. All right. So in general, our systems, when we came in, are a lot of, I call it the black screen, green text that we're trying to get away from. So we've been moving towards more of a cloud-based solution through Microsoft. It's called Dynamics 365. And through that, then, we're in the cloud, which is much more safe and secure, and we're relying on Microsoft. We're using Azure as our cloud provider. So through the cybersecurity, we're working with that. We've so far have implemented our financial operations is on that platform. We're in the process right now of transitioning, hopefully by the end of this calendar year, fully our insurance operations. So when residents come to us with a claim, whether it be pothole, a tort claim, we'll be able to do that through a cloud-based solution. And then that payment information will go through our office, again, through a cloud-based, Microsoft-based solution. And that will also have a website portal so that constituents, Maryland residents, would be able to file a claim online potentially, and do some other things online. That's part of our efforts, is to upgrade. When we talk about communication and getting out to the public, is updating our website. The last piece that needs to be done and is the most complicated is our banking module. This is when we interface with the banks to either collect tax revenue, which we work with the comptroller hand in hand on, or to do payroll. Each of you receives a check from the state of Maryland, or even vendor payments. So we're continuing to upgrade that. This is what the treasurer had referred to in his comments, though. We had been a very old server that was at the end of its maintenance warranty. We were very concerned about that, both operationally but cybersecurity, and we've gone to a third-party vendor who is completely in the cloud. Again, that should help us with security and cybersecurity. And we did just recently get some questions from Senator Hester's office relating to cybersecurity. So as we are able to continue to move forward to these cloud-based solutions, we feel more confident that we'll be able to meet all the cybersecurity. But it's a continuing thing. We talk about not only cybersecurity, but because we're dealing with bank and individual accounts, fraud, so working with the banks in terms of any of the latest and greatest kind of fraud detection activities they have. We try to bring those to bear to protect both the state, but also the residents who interact with the state.
Thank you. Great to know. And one, and you said it at the very end too, if you're working with banks that have modern equipment and programs, and we're still using MS-DOS, it's hard to protect information and keep it secure. So thank you very much.
No problem.
Any other colleagues have any questions? Senator Benson?
I want to thank you for your presentation very much. I'm very pleased with that. But I want to ask a question relative to complaints that are filed. Let's take potholes. What's the process? And one of the concerns that I have heard from my constituents is the time frame, the timeline, and how long it takes for the state to respond. And that's very troubling. So could you walk just a bit through that process, how it works?
I'll start. You can jump in. Let me pothole, and the reason why we sort of had a bit of a chuckle. The whole issue of potholes have sort of been a thing for me, if you will, for lack of a better way to put it. To be honest, I wasn't aware. I just assumed when I got in office, my assumption always been if you sort of drove on state roads or any road at your own risk, if you hit a pothole or whatever, it was just on you. And so I was surprised, I would say pleasantly surprised that, that a citizen, a resident could get their compensation if it was damaged. But a glitch that well, I don't know if it's a glitch, I think it was intentional, but where it became a thing for me was this. You could only get your car repaired if State Highway had been made aware that there was a pothole there. So if you just happen to be driving and you hit that pothole and no one had previously reported it, you were just out of luck. And so my thing was, I guess, thinking as a legislator, was like, no. If something happens on your personal property, if someone gets hurt or whatever, you don't have to be made aware, oh, Derek, there was a hole in your backyard. If no one told me there was a hole, but someone got hurt, it was still on me. So I'll land this plane in a second, Senator Benson. So that's one part of it. Citizens, when they find out, they're pleasantly surprised when they find out that they're not driving at their own risk, it's on them. But then they are perturbed when they find out if it hadn't previously been reported. I guess, in other words, it would be, you're essentially saying State Highway was negligent because they were aware of something that they didn't take care of, as opposed to saying it's your road, it's your responsibility. So so there is an investigation that goes on. Do we conduct it, or is it State Highway?
I believe we conduct it. State Highway may be involved in terms of that notification that you talked about at the beginning.
And there is a process. They go back and, to sort of prove it, they will check records. Like in one particular case I was familiar with, we went back and checked, I guess, cameras nearby. So it is not, and I will certainly work on that. It is not a quick process. I can't tell you, because each case is differently, how long it is, but a lot of it is, doing the investigation to actually prove that that's where it occurred, because, like anything else, people can try to, do untoward things. So we do try to be as thorough as we can. But a big issue with that, and it wouldn't surprise me, because we had contact with Senator Simonaire on just that case, that one of his constituents found out that although it was damaged, their car was damaged on state property, on state roads, the state hadn't been made previously aware of it, so they were unable to get that compensation. So I expect that there will probably be a legislative initiative to address that, and I guess I got to see which hat I'm going to wear on it, because I actually agree. Even if you either have this process or you don't, and I just don't agree with, State Highway have to have prior knowledge of it. If it's their road, it's their responsibility. But it's stuff like that causes the process to drag on a little bit.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Okay. So just for my edification, where is all our money held?
So I'll take this one. So we have a portfolio of the money that we invest. It is either long-term maturities that could be in mortgage-backed securities such as bonds. It can be in a money market account. We do what's also called repos, which are overnight, where we deal with the banks that they'll have collateral. Given that we've been in a rising interest rate environment, we're actually doing very well for making money for the state off the portfolio we have, right? So a year ago, interest rates that the Fed had set were at 25 basis points or 0.25%. We know that they're gradually increasing. So as we do our investments, that's where we're doing that. So we have a combination of both short-term investments as well as longer-term investments. I think by statute, the most we can go up to is either 5 or 7 years. But they're very stable, secure. Statute lays out very clearly that we can only invest in highly rated bonds, usually either Fed treasuries. We don't really get into corporate-backed securities. I think only about 10% of our portfolio can be in corporate-backed bonds. So it's usually federally backed, very secure bonds, money market, those types of things that we would be purchasing.
Okay. And then I would imagine there's also a cash account, or you all don't have a cash account?
We invest Any cash
Everything.
every day, every night. So every day we're doing trades. Either we have money coming in that we have to reinvest, and we try to maximize that as much as we possibly can.
And it's important to note that we require collateralization of any of those monies. So it's my understanding that none of our money is at risk.
Okay.
You know, we can get to it and so forth. But yeah, we have to reconcile every day, every penny, and we reinvest it all.
Okay. And so just again, from my understanding, from a process standpoint, when the executive needs money, that's when you liquidate, or is that how it works?
So now we're getting into more of the cash management we do on a daily basis. So we know every day we have money coming in, whether it's taxpayers, whatever else the case may be. So that could be $100 million, and we also know from the comptroller's office how much money through the accounting division has to be paid out. And we'll marry those two up to see whether or not we have enough cash on hand from what's coming in that day to cover our bills. But we also have money from the prior day that we had invested also coming in. So we have a long-term disbursement schedule that we've gone through with all the agencies to know when is a big payout that we have to write a check to the local boards of education, for example. That's done quarterly. Or when's a big Medicaid payment. We know when payroll days hit. So we always make sure we have enough cash on hand for those big disbursement days that we have enough money to go out. That's going to be a combination of, again, the money that's coming in and then the cash we have. So we always time our maturities. Typically, big outlay days are at the end of the month. So we're always solving for those days, whether it's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. So when we buy maturities over a longer time horizon, we always have them mature on when those big disbursement days are. And that's kind of how we manage the cash for the state, if that makes sense.
That very much does. Thank you so much. That's very helpful to just from an understanding standpoint.
Sure.
Colleagues, do you have any other questions for the treasurer and his team? No? No? Well, I will just say thank you so very much. One of the things that we didn't talk about that I think we have talked about in the past is the condition of our facilities, and and just I see it's in here where there's some discussion about the insurance that we have on some of our buildings and the maintenance, long-term maintenance, and some of those things that just we don't need to talk about it today, but it is, I think, is always something that's out there as an issue that we just know we have to keep our eyes on, particularly our ongoing costs that are associated with that. And we've talked with the treasurer in the past about that, although we didn't really talk about that today. But I would just say thank you. It's great to have you all here. Almost called him chairman. Treasurer Davis and team, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you all very much, and have a great session.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay. Yeah.
Next, I believe we have Comptroller Peter Francho for an update on his activities, unless he's not here.
He is.
He is? Mm-hmm. Great. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
how's everybody?
Good. Mr. Comptroller, good to see you.
Always good to see you. I'm going to have my deputy comptroller and my director of legislative work, Justin Hayes, Andy Schaffel. How is everybody?
Good.
Senator
Welcome back.
Bible,
Good to see you in
always good
person.
to see you.
When you're ready.
Yeah, no, we have enjoyed a wonderful relationship. Senator Benson, how are you? So let me just thank the chairman, Senator Augustine, and Chairman Young, also, both for your work with this committee and the fact that we've had a long and very, very good relationship with our agency. Over the course of my tenure as comptroller, I've looked to this committee as a partner in the effort to ensure Maryland taxpayers are getting the best possible results from their hard-earned tax dollars. I remain sincerely grateful, and that's honest, it has the added value of being sincere. Grateful that we have a good relationship with members of this committee. I'm proud of the track record the agency's established over the past 15, soon to be 16 years. When I retire from state service in a few short months, my successor will inherit a well-maintained, capable, runs like a Swiss clock agency. And I know the next comptroller will have the support within the agency and among the legislature to build on the accomplishments we've achieved, challenges we've faced during my tenure. Among those challenges faced by every agency, frankly, is the COVID-19 pandemic, which continues to challenge both businesses, workers, and governments by creating uncertainty within the economy, exacerbating the inflation and workforce shortages. I'm pleased to report that despite the challenges the pandemic continued to impose, we had another successful and efficient tax filing season. So far this year, as of October 1st, we've collected $4.5 billion in gross revenue, processed more than 3.14 million individual income tax returns, and dispersed $2.64 billion in refunds to more than 2.28 million Maryland families, on average within 2.5 business days. More than 2.88 million Marylanders already filed electronically this year, representing about 92% of all tax returns processed to date. Although we continue to encourage the use of our online, safe, and efficient electronic filing system, when I first became comptroller, it was below, I think, 35%. Now it's 92%. We continue to ensure that we process the few remaining paper tax returns in a timely and expeditious manner. The extended filing deadline this year is October 15th, which falls on a Saturday, making the effective deadline next Monday, October 17th. After that date, we'll be able to provide definitive numbers on returns received and revenue collected. We've also redoubled our efforts to reunite Marylanders with unclaimed property. Thanks to our efforts, including a strong presence at community events throughout the state, we paid out more than $948 million, almost $1 billion in unclaimed property claims since I took office in 2007. Last year alone, we paid out more than $80 million in claims. Today, we have approximately 17 million open unclaimed property accounts worth $2.2 billion. We remain committed to continuing our outreach and marketing efforts to inform Marylanders about this program. Additionally, we remain steadfast in our efforts to combat the rising tide of tax fraud and identity theft cases in Maryland. My top priority as comptroller is to reward the vast majority of taxpayers who do the right thing by making the filing process as easy and efficient as possible. This committee has been very supportive of that effort. Our branch offices, in addition, across the state, and 2 remote call centers continue to be integral parts of our customer service delivery model. This fiscal year, we were better equipped to address the public by offering appointments in office or virtual, which was safer for both our employees and the public, and used time and resources better. By utilizing flexible appointments, taxpayers have a dedicated time to handle business with the comptroller's office in their preferred setting. Last year, our branch office representatives assisted more than 138,000 taxpayers and provided free tax preparation services more than 2,000 Marylanders. In fiscal year 2022, the Taxpayer Service Division answered 228,000 emails for businesses, practitioners, general correspondents, and bilingual taxpayers. All told, over this fiscal year, our Taxpayer Services Division provided free tax preparation for 2,600 taxpayers and fielded 638,000 phone calls. In addition to our tax compliance and revenue collection operations, our Field Enforcement Bureau continues to work across Maryland to enforce state law relative to motor fuel taxes, investigating criminal tax fraud, processing state licenses, and assessing sales and use taxes. Field Enforcement Bureau conducted nearly 3,000 site inspections, processed nearly 10,500 fuel samples, updated half of the more than 93,000 active state license accounts, and has maintained a 100% conviction rate for tax fraud investigations. And in collaboration with the Revenue Avenue Administration Division, the Field Enforcement Bureau sold more than $424 million worth of tobacco tax stamps. The Field Enforcement Bureau also distinguished itself by administering the gas tax holiday authorized by the Maryland General Assembly in March of last year. March of 2022, frankly, this year. Due to surging gasoline prices, I called on the General Assembly and Governor Hogan to pass legislation instituting a gas tax holiday to help ease the financial burden on our taxpayers. You and the legislature, to your credit, quickly passed a 30-day gas tax holiday. The bill was signed into law by Governor Hogan 1 week later. Comptroller's office worked with industry leaders in the state's roughly 2,300 gas stations to encourage them to lower their prices so that motorists would realize the savings in full. Gas tax holiday resulted in more than $100 million returned to Maryland drivers feeling the pain at the pump, did not diminish the state's transportation trust fund thanks to the General Assembly's efforts to make it revenue neutral. Lastly, I'd like to provide an update on the Comptroller's workshop on pandemic spending. Following the 2021 session, the General Assembly mandated the agency to, quote, conduct a full accounting of federal and state economic stimulus funds provided for pandemic relief. In order to fulfill this commitment, the workshop on pandemic spending was formed and met 8 times between 2021 and 2022. We heard testimony from a diverse cross-section of Maryland's economy and government, detailing lessons learned from federal and state spending in response to the COVID pandemic. While we've heard many success stories, most troubling was the common refrain that those at the top, who were well represented and already well resourced, were able to apply for and receive relief, while those at the proverbial bottom, who are most in need, faced adversity. I highly recommend that those who are interested visit our website to view the archived meetings, as we made sure to both record and live broadcast these conversations for posterity, transparency, and in a use. In conclusion, thank you again, Chairman Augustine and Chairman Young and members of the committee for the strong partnership that we continue to share, and it helps us protect the taxpayers of our great state. I remain committed to being an independent fiscal watchdog for Maryland taxpayers and do everything I can to honor the trust they have placed in me in this storied office. I'll just say 2 quick things. Today at the Board of Public Works meeting, I think it was important to indicate, as I did, that the nearly $10 billion in one-time only federal relief that has come into the state last fiscal year, this fiscal year, and will come next fiscal year, that's going to stop. The spigot is going to be turned off. Winter is coming. We're going to have a recession. It's going to be either severe or not severe. Hopefully it will be not severe. But it's something that everyone, I think, collectively has to realize. We can't assume that the surpluses we're talking about are going to continue. Secondly, we have a massive Center for Fraud Detection in our agency. We've fought the financial thieves for years. We know exactly who they are. They get almost nothing from us as far as successful tax fraud. With the federal relief, they all moved over to the other agencies, and they pillaged the state treasury. We have $14 billion in unemployment claims that have been paid. Biggest chunk is federal money coming to the Department of Labor. But we add in our own taxpayers' money, and obviously the federal money is taxpayer money. $14 billion has been distributed in unemployment claims. We estimate $3 billion went directly to out-of-state fraudsters. Medicaid fraudulent claims are just skyrocketing. I've suggested to the governor and will suggest to the Senate President in a couple of weeks that there be a center for fraud detection for all the state agencies, staffed, happy to staff them with several people from each agency so people don't feel like someone is stepping on their territory. But that's needed at the state level. You could house it in the comptroller's office, like we have the data storage already, where we serve other agencies. But you need to do something, because the sophisticated program we have is not available for other agencies, or they've never experienced what they experienced under COVID. And now that the financial thieves have had success, I think you're going to see a lot of it ongoing. And you don't want the money that you allocate to go to people in Russia, China, other states. And so I leave you with those two things. Delighted to be here. Happy to take any questions. Deputy Comptroller, do you want to add anything?
No, I would back you up on the Center for Fraud Detection as a great opportunity for the state, the right thing to do to protect the Treasury and the agencies and the sanctimony of the programs, right? Because it kind of violates the trust, I think, a bit there. But other than that, no, sir. I'll just be here to support with questions.
Jesse?
Thank you all for having us here today. I appreciate it. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller and staff. Members of the committee, any questions for the Comptroller? Senator Beidel.
Mr. Comptroller, thank you. Thank you for all your efforts to protect Marylanders. And I want to particularly compliment Justin, because every time we have a constituent issue and we get to Justin, it gets resolved really quickly. So you have a great team, and we thank you.
Feel free to send something to me, too. But I'll do the same thing you did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for your advocacy for small businesses.
All right. Sure, yeah. Question on the unclaimed property, the 2.2 billion. Is that in the Treasury, and that's the accounting of it, or where is the 2.2 billion?
That is money, I think, that we're passed over to you guys, but, we owe it in perpetuity. So
Okay.
most states do not advertise their unclaimed property lists. We do the opposite in Maryland. We advertise it. So we want to make sure there's an understanding that you can't just dip in and spend it as if you're never going to have to pay it.
Okay, so you're saying then that we have a $2.2 billion liability that is outstanding, and the way that we have it set up right now?
That's correct. And the way that works is we do keep an amount in the bank as reserves should more people come than typically do. But it really, every year we bring in more unclaimed property than we pay out. Mm-hmm. And that shows up as revenue, and it's part of the general fund budget. Mm-hmm. But you are correct. In theory, if every single citizen came forward, we would have a $2.2 billion liability.
Okay, that's very helpful. The money that comes, what is the process? We were just talking with the treasurer, and I just asked sort of like a basic understanding question. The money that comes through the comptroller's office, what is how does it move from the comptroller's office to the treasury, and what's kind of like the timing of that?
For revenue in general, like the tax collections we collect from you, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, sure. So the funds move through your bank, the treasurer facilitates that transaction, and it ends up within the comptroller's office. We account for it, we whether it's a debit or credit, whether we end up owing you a refund and, partial payment or whatever that might be. And then we interact again with the treasurer's office to facilitate moving that money, if we owe you a refund, back to you, or into the state's bank account. So it goes to one of two places. We don't hold the bank accounts, the treasurer's office does, I think, as you know. So there is a lot of interaction between our agency and the treasurer's agency to facilitate all of that.
Okay. And is that across the board? So that would also include the other taxes, and they also basically move into the treasury accounts?
Correct.
Okay. And so in the office of the comptroller, acts to manage, facilitate, ensure that those transactions are correct and as it goes through the process?
Correct. We administer that system, and then we hand it off to the treasurer to handle the actual banking activities.
Okay. And you probably, you're going to ask a question? I know you go ahead and he can ask his because I know he's going to ask about, so you go ahead.
No, so in sort of the same light about the 2.2 billion that's out there, and you've been doing this a long time, and you've done an amazing job of bringing those assets back to Maryland who they belong to. What have you noticed that why every year you bring in more liabilities than you pay out? What's been the deciding factor, like one of the main factors of folks not claiming their property? Just lack of information, just not being able to find family that's not around or nearby that it might then pass on to that you just can't reach or they don't exist?
I think it's lack of information. I mean, if I get a $5 extra buck award at CVS, I pay attention to that because it's in my hand. I got it in my receipt. But if I'm owed $500 because of my parents for some reason that the state has in the unclaimed property, I may not know about it. But if I did know about it, I'd say, terrific. And it's got the added benefit of most of it has been spent already on behalf of your priorities. But the liability, as the chairman indicated, is forever.
Sure.
So we have to be careful as far as how we view that.
Yeah. And in your efforts to get those to the right folks, what have you noticed has been the most effective at getting folks to claim that property?
Well, basically, it's informing people, which we do very vigorously. We also have a publication that we put out once a year that you guys have mandated us to do. And early in my tenure, I said, I don't want to spend $500,000 in newspaper ads. You guys said, no, you have to. So we ended up doing it. And we do it now very creatively. And some people are jealous of that, but I would urge the new comptroller to continue it because people appreciate that. You can alphabetically find that year's folks, and if you're stimulated enough to do that, you can go to the entire universe of folks that we are holding money for.
Well, then on the last piece, Mr. Comptroller, I still remember from the late 90s a newspaper ad where you were sitting next to a fireplace in a robe saying that there was unclaimed property with everybody's name on it in the newspaper. So
Well, there you
still
go.
effective and still stuck up here.
Yeah, well, it's a great program as long as, we're not trying to do what a lot of states do, which is spend it and then hide it because they don't want to have to reimburse the person. It's tricky, but it all seems to work. Maryland's got a good program.
Okay. I have one more quick question, and I thought that Chairman Young would ask about the cybersecurity and.
I thought. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
No, because he usually does ask that question. So I do want to hear from you all, particularly on the side, not as much on the side of not just on the fraud, but just on how you are protecting our information. I mean, we do hear about. I mean, there's the two-step process, like folks getting their Social Security numbers, taken, or those processes. How where are we in that, and is that something that is unique? Do we have a unique system for the state of Maryland, or is that something that generally is utilized by similar entities across the state and then sort of worked on?
I could just add on to that, Mr. Chairman, the rollout of Compass, and I know this is probably to the staff too, but the rollout of Compass and like the next phase.
Yes.
And what you've experienced from the first phase with income tax, corporate taxes that have come in. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, Compass is an incredibly important program because we've got an antiquated system that we've jerry-rigged to produce the kind of quick refunds and customer service that we want, that we demand of the staff, and it's become untenable right now. So we're spending, with your authorization, a tremendous amount of money, and we have long program that is going to make it particularly customer-friendly for small businesses that right now are very upset with the inability of the smart system that we have to help them efficiently file their taxes. It also impacts individual taxpayers because it's just not a user-friendly system. So we're in the process of transitioning. We've made, some movement on it. We still have some time to go, and you should keep your eyes on it because it's a big chunk of money that you all allocated, but it's going to have enormous benefit. And, as far as cybersecurity and protecting people's privacy, yeah, that's a big concern, but what we wanted to stop is someone stealing their refund. And we've done that. We've done it. It's like we have a Center for Fraud Detection in the office that is incredibly expert. We have a risk management division that is constantly looking at what the crooks are doing. And we sent them over to the Department of Labor when they were experiencing the early parts of COVID, because they were very, Secretary, is it Richardson? The secretary is very competent. But she reported back to us, well, we don't really need your help with fraud because we've got this under control. We put aside, I can't remember what it was, several 100,000 fraudulent refund requests for unemployment claims last week. So we're good to go. Thank you very much, Mr. Comptroller. We don't need you. Well, I came back and told that to the staff, and they said, that's the oldest trick in the book. We've experienced it dozens of times. What fraudsters do is flood your office with transparently fraudulent requests. And you guys harvest it and put it all aside and segregate it and don't pay any of it. And then you get complacent. The next week, they come in with very sophisticated, up-to-date, not obvious, very difficult to detect, and they rob you blind while you're sitting there claiming that you're doing a great job. I'm not blaming the other agencies. I'm just saying they don't have anything like we do. We have, algorithms that we run these tax returns through. We are like white on snow as far as trying to keep up with the crooks. And we're so good that they all moved over to the other agencies. But it's all within your power to say, frankly, it's not just the state agencies, it's also the county agencies and municipal agencies. And, this ransomware and other things that are coming along are just going to be more and more headaches. But
So is there,
let me stop for a minute and see if the deputy comptroller wants to correct anything I said.
No, I think you're right. I think we're all under attack on trying to steal the state's dollars as well as break into our systems to wreak havoc, whether it's for fun or ransom or whatever it is. And there is no secret weapon to that. It's the same thing we're employing, that the banks are employing, that the federal government is employing, and it's a challenge, and it's worrisome, and it's something that we put a lot of resources towards. And I'll tell you, we can't afford to do it under the state salary schedule, so we outsource. I think just about everybody does. We're always evaluating our strategy. We're always bringing in others to come in and evaluate the strategy we have in place, right, to challenge it. So it consumes a lot of our resources, but it's a reality in an online financial world that can't be escaped.
just as a follow-up to that, will the new system make it such that there'll be more consistency in how to combat? I mean, if I'm understanding, the old system and trying to protect the old system required very unique, because it's old, it's legacy, and you don't know what's going on. Will we be in a better place, or just again, just to follow up, is there like an industry that works to protect where you more have like more of a collective, or are we going to be still in that unique, sort of remain in a unique situation of having to protect this information?
We will always have to protect this information. will
And
always have
our
to-
systems will always be unique in that fight?
Always be vulnerable.
Well, I know that part.
Yeah.
I get that.
But that's not the reason. We're doing the new system partly for customer service. At the complaint of the small business community that we weren't friendly enough with our digital outreach. And also, a lot of citizens were like, we can't figure out half the time what we're supposed to be doing. Customer service and, but the risk management is what you're talking about, being hacked into and having some kind of intervention. And so those are two separate entities, but all I'm suggesting is that we have a great mousetrap. We've created it. We have to partner outside, but it's $500,000 or less than $1 million that we have to pay to keep ourselves up to date. And the problem that you face is that every agency is very proud of itself and doesn't want to have to share any like personnel help or any other agency like ours, looking at their digital security, I guess is the way to describe it. But the best thing to do is to set something up, house it in the comptroller's office, welcomely add personnel from other agencies if they feel like, their interests are not well represented, and set it up. And we will then put in many of the things that we do right now for preventing the kind of fraud that everybody else is unfortunately being hammered by. And
So, Mr. Comptroller, this will be a conversation too for the next General Assembly that, well, I won't be here, but I was just, from what I'm hearing too, you all believe and feel that from the Comptroller's office, you all can take on that responsibility, one, through the expertise you have through dealing with it through your office, but also the programs you have and the folks that you're using can apply to any agency when it comes to Department of Health.
But when you present this, whoever's here in the legislature, if you happen to think it's a good idea, which I think it is, the first impulse of an agency is to say, no, they don't want to we do the data storage, which is, something that's collective, and I just suggest if anybody moves forward with the idea that they have some awareness of the sensitivity that other agencies have, not to leave out the county agencies, which also need this resource, and the municipal agencies, they also need it, both for ransomware, which we've read about, but also for avoiding payments. And it's not that complicated, but you have to be pretty sophisticated. And when I say they're algorithmic return views, we look at every tax return, and if we see a change in the bank for direct deposit, one digit, we'll pull that out, look at it manually, check with the entity to make sure that they're there. And, I had people file unemployment claims for me. I had Hogan call me and say someone filed an unemployment claim for him. I said, well, you're still employed, at least until January, both of us are. But you get the drift. There's a lot out there. I'm not being critical of of the other agencies. I've just, we worked hard on it, and we've, I think, figured out what it is, and it's good enough that we recognize the people that are no longer knocking on our door, but they're going after the other agencies.
Can I piggyback on that a little bit?
Yeah, please.
No, I think you're spot on there. It is the same folks. Comptroller Francho set us up when we were early. It takes a while to mature in your ability to detect fraud, because first you have to learn what it is in order to build the algorithms to go after it, right? The algorithms are built on experience. So first you have to create that experience. And we started with a very basic attempt at fraud detection, and every year it got better and better and better. And Comptroller Francho, when we were midway through this maturity ascension, took us to Baltimore and we met with the federal attorney, and they brought in Homeland Security and folks from the security apparatus. And, you know, we had this great discussion about what can we do to stop this. These people are literally in sweatshops in other countries, and they're brilliant people attacking us in every way financially. And a lot of it is very sophisticated, and it is a cat and mouse game. Like every year we have to go in and update things and change the way and adapt to what they're doing and try to think ahead of them. But they also do it in a retail way in some ways. Some of these people will actually call us and follow up to try to get their refund. Like they will call us. So it really does just run this tremendous gambit. But it is the same people coming after us are going after everywhere, because once you create what they call synthetic identities, right? To your point, they've stolen Social Security numbers. They may have found wages. Whatever it is that they can create this in identity, these things look very, very real, very, very real. And we have some tricks to employ against that. But once you create
You'd
those, you
shoot
can throw
us,
them everywhere.
you have to shoot us if we tell you, because it's not public, but no agency likes to report fraud because it makes them obviously vulnerable to criticism. But there's a lot of it out there, and they need some help in dealing with it, and I think that's kind of the bottom line.
And I think a changeover administration is a great opportunity to start that. Maybe that'll break down some of those barriers.
Senator Bidel?
I just want to briefly tell you a little story that happened to me after a fraudulent unemployment claim. About a month later, someone opened a checking account at a different bank than I bank at, had all my information, birth date, social security number, address, had the whole thing. And the bank picked it up right away because of the IP address. I'm sure that's something that you're doing. And so then, I shut down all my credit, how you lock everything down. I had identity theft protection on it. Now I've had probably the same person, maybe, trying to open a credit card with another bank. So, I really have to watch my credit and watch my emails and text messages, because this person has all my information. And I believe it came from a fraudulent unemployment claim, because that's what happened first. So
Sorry
I
to
thank
hear
you
that.
for your efforts, and I hope that we can do something better with all the departments. Thank you.
Don't forget the local jurisdictions. And we had, it's not like we're perfect. We have instances where fraud has been successful. We have insurance to pay for it, but we're constantly paranoid. And I think the other agencies, to the extent they're just facing all this, don't really understand how much they get gamed. But yeah, that's great. If this committee wanted to save the public use of money in a big way, without damaging the delivery of relief, which is, you have to rely on the honor system a little bit, but you can certainly review if a person's still employed or not, or whether a person is communicating from the right computer. And so I think that's something that you might be very pleased if you could get that off the ground. And everybody I talk to says, yeah, that's a great idea, but it's not easy to implement.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Colleagues, have any more questions? I just want to thank you for your service, sir. I've enjoyed being on the other side, talking with you about these things. And
Good.
thank you so very much. And we really appreciate you coming out and sharing this with us today.
Well, I kid people and say I'm like Shirley Chisholm, 36 years in elected office, unbought, unbossed, unindicted. So I'll leave you with that.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we're going to hear from we're going to hear from the Office of Legislative Audits, and I really don't want to mess up Bekana Idosa's name.
You are correct.
And Thomas Side's name. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chairman Augustine, Chairman Young, member of the committee, good afternoon. As I said, my name is Bakana Idosa. I'm the audit manager. With me is Mr. Thomas Sides, a senior auditor from the Office of Legislative Audits. As requested by this committee, we are here to make presentation on our review report of the local government audit report for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021, that was issued on September 13, 2022. Based on our desk review of 186 local government audit reports, we found that the local government have largely complied with generally accepted accounting principles and auditing standard and appeared to be in good financial condition. However, maybe to the interest of this committee, 13 of the local government were delinquent in filing the required audit report, and a number of local government had uninsured or unsecured cash deposit, which is a violation of the state law. Our presentation will address the following 4 areas. First, we will provide an overview of the local government auditing process, including the legal requirements and monitoring procedures employed by our office. Second, we will highlight problems identified during our desk review. Third, the follow-up action we took. And finally, we will provide some concluding remarks. We will start with an overview of local government auditing process. Title 16 of the local government article of the state law requires each county, city, or town and taxing district in Maryland is to have an annual audit. However, small government may request a waiver of annual filing and file once every 4 years. 19 small local governments requested and were granted waivers of the annual filing requirement for fiscal year 2021. The law requires financial statement be audited by an independent certified public accountant in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, and the financial statement be presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. As required by the state law, our office provides audit guidelines that address the basic requirements that must be met by the local government and their independent auditors. Our audit guidelines are intended to help ensure that a minimum acceptable level of quality is maintained for audits and financial report of the local governments. Our office performs a desk review of each audit report to identify areas of non-compliance by using a quality control checklist developed by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. Our review is to determine whether the auditor's report was presented in accordance with generally accepted auditing standard and financial statements were presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Our desk review also includes a review to identify non-compliance with the state law that requires all deposits held in banks by local government be insured or secured. Additionally, our desk review includes a basic financial analysis of each local government. This analysis includes a review of various financial trends and ratios for the most recent 5 years, financial data, just to provide some insight regarding potential financial problems at the local government level. At the end of our review, we prepare a report summarizing areas of non-compliance with audit guidelines and with the state law. The report is submitted to the Comptroller of Maryland and the Executive Director of the Department of Legislative Services, as well as other interested parties. Next, we will address problems noted during our desk review. Most local governments have substantially complied with the standards over the past several years. However, for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021, 30 of the 186 local government reported contained areas of non-compliance with the audit guidelines. See Exhibit A, page 1, for a summary of these areas and problems over the past several years. These areas of non-compliance were not significant enough to cast doubts on reliability of the underlying financial statements. During our fiscal year 2021 review, the percentage of local government report with areas of non-compliance with audit guidelines were improved compared to prior years. For example, for fiscal year 2021, non-compliance rate was approximately 16%. However, the non-compliance during fiscal year 2020 was approximately 23%. In addition, our review disclosed areas of non-compliance with the state law for 11 local governments that had unsecured cash deposit at the end of fiscal year 2021. Additionally, our review disclosed one local government with a potential financial problem during fiscal year 2021. The more significant and frequent problems disclosed by our review include delinquency in filing audited financial statement. Without audited financial statements, we cannot effectively monitor financial condition of a local government. In this regard, as of July 15, 2022, 13 local governments were delinquent in filing audit report as required by the state law. For example, the town of Deer Park from the Garrett County did not file its fiscal year 2019, 2020, and 2021 audited financial statement. 3 local governments, the city of Hyattsville and the city of St. Pleasant from Prince George County and the town of Middletown from Frederick County, did not file their 2 most recent fiscal years audited financial statements. Another 9 local governments were delinquent in filing their 2021 audited financial statement. We provided their list in our written presentation, page 3. Other problems, as shown on page 1 of the exhibit to our written presentation, include delay in submitting audit reports, missing required auditor's opinion, lack of proper disclosures or notes, which are communicated to local government and their auditors for correction in the future audits. One audit report, which is for the Upper Potomac River Commission, was Waste Treatment Plant Fund reported a potential financial problem. Although we reported and raised a red flag during last year's presentation about this taxing district, the management did not resolve the potential financial problem during this year's report as well. Specifically, the auditor's report for the Waste Treatment Plant Fund included an emphasis paragraph describing an uncertainty regarding the fund's ability to continue as a going concern, which is an accounting term to describe potential insolvency of the fund. The note to the fund financial statement stated that the fund's management is in the process of addressing how it will fulfill the fund's obligation, given its economic dependence on a private corporation which was closed in year 2019. Next, we will highlight the follow-up action we took. We sent a letter describing the areas of non-compliance with audit guidelines noted during our review to each local government and its independent auditors, requesting correction for future audits. For the local governments that failed to file audit report for fiscal year 2019, 2020, and 2021 was reported to the Executive Director of the Department of Legislative Services. If these reports are not filed, the Comptroller of Maryland, acting upon the advice of the Executive Director, is authorized by law to discontinue the payment of all funds, grants, or state aid to which the local government is entitled. For areas of non-compliance with the state law related to unsecured cash deposits, our office requested the applicable local government to provide written description of the action to be taken to eliminate the condition as appropriate. We reviewed and evaluated the response to these requests that we received to date and found sufficient action were taken. Additionally, as requested by this committee, when letters were sent to the local government regarding non-compliance with the state law, copies of the letter were also sent to the appropriate member of the Maryland General Assembly representing the district where the local governments are located. We also make presentation on our desk review results to this committee every year. In conclusion, the Office of Legislative Audit functions in our oversight capacity by issuing audit guidelines, reviewing local government audit report for compliance with standards and regulations, and notifying local government and their auditors any deficiencies noted. We believe that these efforts have helped improve the quality of audit and have promoted fiscal accountability among local government in Maryland. To further improve the quality of local government audits, the Office of Legislative Audit participates in various efforts to make technical information available to local government and respond to technical inquiries from local government and their auditors. Thank you very much. We are happy to answer any question you may have on this presentation.
Thank you very much. I do have some questions. Thank you so much for the presentation. There were a couple things that, that I did want to ask you. First of all, how is small defined in order to be exempted?
Okay. Small generally, if the revenue for 2 or 3 years, consecutive years, if the revenue is $250,000, they can request a waiver and we can grant them.
Okay.
It's a matter of revenue they generate.
Yep. Okay. And on here, there's listed one qualified opinion. Is that the waste treatment plant fund?
No. It is another county. They did not, in their report, they did not support the revenue they generate. And that is the reason why the auditors qualified their opinion.
What county was that?
It was Calvert County, I believe.
Okay.
I believe it was Calvert County, sir.
Okay. He said Calvert County. Calvert. Okay. And then just for we talk in here about the unsecured cash deposits.
Yes.
Can you just explain what an unsecured cash deposit is?
Yes. Generally, when local government put their money in the bank insure up to $250,000. They may have more than $250,000 in the bank. Above that, in case the bank go under, it is not insured. The federal pay for the $250,000, but the rest is at risk. However, they may have millions of dollars in the bank, so that should be secured with another collateral asset, like treasury bonds, something like that. So recently we found and sent a letter to if I'm not mistaken, Landover, Hilltown, they had significant amount of money in the bank. It is not secured. So we send them a letter, and they come back, and they are secured some of it. The rest is in the process of securing that fund.
And when you say securing the fund, you're saying moving them out of a cash account into like a treasury?
You know,
I can answer this one. Sir, it's to make sure that the money is backed up either by insurance or collateral. So
Okay.
they have something in case the bank fails.
Yep. Okay. So it is that they would purchase or have some insurance or some collateral for the funds that are above that which is protected by the.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. And that's when we talk about the unsecured cash deposits, that's what is going on, and those money, they may have more than that amount in their bank account.
Exactly.
And so they're at risk if the bank itself ran into problems.
yes.
That's correct.
Okay. 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 That was the information. Colleagues, anybody have any questions for them? Yes, Senator Benson?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your report. I want to ask the question relative to these municipalities that have not submitted their audits in a timely fashion. It says here that upon the advice of the executive director, they could be authorized to discontinue the payment of funds, grants, or state aid. Is that the only way that you all can impress upon these people to do it in the time of these municipalities to submit their audits in a timely fashion? Or is there a need for legislation that would put more teeth into the ability for you all to get these audits in a timely fashion?
That's an excellent question. Really, to emphasize what bothers us the most is when local government did not respond to us.
What?
When they did not respond to our follow-up letters, we write follow-up letters, and when they don't respond to us, when they don't send us audited financial statement, we have no idea what's going on. Without the knowledge of their audited financial statement, we have no idea what's going on in that jurisdiction. The tool we have is to hold money, and I think previously the legislator tried, and it was not successful. If it is possible, I suggest if those counties called here and explain themselves why they don't report, that will be a great help for us. And also, if we don't get a timely report, for example, Deer Park or St. Pleasant, we don't have their financial statement for 2 years. If we get the report 3 years down the road, what is the value of it? If we present to you after 3 years, those people who, in case, I'm not implying there is a fraud at this time in Deer Park or St. Pleasant, but if some improprieties happen in those districts, if we report it to you 3 years down the road, those people are either retired or they are not at that position. The value of the information we present to you is not that significant, even though it's important, but the value is diminishing as the time passes. Any help we can get on this matter is really helpful for us.
In other words, you all send correspondence to these municipalities or these places, and they don't respond, or they take their time, or they don't see a need to respond? Is that what you just said? And the answer to that could possibly be to have these municipalities, after so many days, we've got to have some legislation, I see, Mr. Chairman. We've got to put some kind of legislation in that would give more teeth to these people to impress upon them that they have to submit their audit reports in a timely fashion. Now, I would think that having them to appear before this committee is a step, might be a step in the right direction. But we have to do something.
Not all of them. A few of them, repeatedly, they don't respond to us. For example, we have seen, surprisingly, Dorchester County is on the list. And we sent them a letter. They proactively contacted us and clearly explained what happened to them. And they are in a process of preparing their financial statement. Not only using the current personnel, they went out and hiring consultants to help them to speed up the process. But a few of them, as I mentioned, Deer Park, they didn't respond to us.
That's correct.
But in that case, we don't know what's going in there. After 3 years, the law requires our executive director send to the Secretary of State to revoke its charter. However, they send us a financial statement, once every year. That implies that they are not ready to surrender their charter either. So we have to know why they are not complete their financial statement in time and submit to us. That's why I asked you, any help we can get in this matter is beneficial to us.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Senator Benson. I think we can definitely talk about perhaps bringing the folks here and also looking at the legislation as you suggested in order to get folks to comply, and so that we also just are doing our job of protecting these public funds. There's some risk associated, obviously, with these folks not doing the audits and some of the underlying issues that are there with them. Colleagues, do we have any other questions for these folks today? No? Okay. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate the presentation. Again, Chair Young, we'll let you close it out. This is it for you. We want to thank you for your service here in the General Assembly, of course, and the future that you have on the council in Baltimore.
Fingers crossed. Yes, sir.
Yes, we're gonna. How do you do that, Senator Benson? We're gonna say it into existence, right? That's right. Yes, we are. Okay.
Well, if I could, I just take the opportunity for a moment of personal privilege and thank you for, the staff for the work you've done over the last 4 years, to the members for the work that we've done when this joint committee was put together. It was originally intended and still serves the purpose of providing transparency, accountability, and establishing and continuing to establish the public trust in these agencies that handle the public's money. And it's been an honor to serve in this capacity. I'd like to thank former Speaker Bush for having trust in me to serve in this capacity for the House, and to thank current Speaker Adrian Jones for continuing to have trust in my ability to represent the House in this capacity. And finally, I'd like to thank good friend and colleague, Senator Augustine, for being the Senate co-chair to this joint committee. It's been a privilege and great to get to know you, and thank you for the work that you've done over the last 4 years as well. So I'll miss it, but I won't be going far. Thank you.
Thank you.